Hi everybody, my name is Becky Vardaman, and today I'd like to talk to you guys about 3 different things that are going to help you measure and improve your websites from Google Analytics. The first one is really focused on goals and why you have a website. The second thing I'd like to talk about is traffic sources and why they're so important to marketers. And finally, I'd like to talk about a couple of ways that you can customize your Google Analytics to really get the most out of your data and your information. So let's talk about goals. One of the first things that you want to think about is who is your actual website audience. Most of us in higher education have websites that serve multiple audiences. So you want to think about all those different audiences. Is it the junior or senior in high school who's trying to decide where they want to go to school? Maybe it's a group of active young alumni that you want to continue to engage. Or maybe it's somebody who has had a life change and is considering going back to school. Something like that. So for each of these audiences, you want to answer the question, why do we have a website? What is the purpose of having this website? So for a lot of those things, it would be maybe for alumni, you wanted them to come and attend an event, RSVP, or donate to your school. For prospective students, it's going to be applying, visiting, and requesting info almost always. And your current students, maybe you want them to register, update their student records, look at courses, things like that. So for each one of these, what we like to do is walk through an analytics framework. This helps to kind of give you something to hang all of this strategy on. So we talk about what your overall business objectives are. So for the specific audience you're thinking of, what is it that you want them to do? The second one we want to think about is, from a website perspective, what can they do on the website that we're going to count as doing that overall business objective? The third one is a key performance indicator. So what is the specific metric on your site? The thing that the URL, the click, the actual action that we're going to use to track that. Then actually we like to take it one step further and we think about targets. So we want you to kind of set a goal for your goal. Not only do you need to have a goal in place, but you have to think about how are you trying to improve that and what sort of tactics are you taking to make that metric move. And then finally, segments. This is a great opportunity for us to think about a lot of the information coming into analytics and what pieces of those informations are really going to help you whittle down and understand the most strategic things that you can for that specific goal. So let me give you an example. If we're looking at prospective undergraduate students, this is a pretty standard, easy one we go through. Our business objective is to get those students in the classroom, right? You want people in seats and you want people attending classes at your school. So how do we actually transition that to the website? On our website, what can we do? Well, in this case, we want them to complete an online application. If they're completing that application, we know that they're making that first step and coming down the funnel into becoming a full-time student. So what's our actual KPI for this? We're going to look at page views to the thank you page of the application form. So if somebody goes through and fills out page 1 of the form, they go to page 2 of the form, and then they hit that thank you page, we know that they've actually gone through and filled out the full form and it's gotten into our system. So we're going to look for page views to the URL for that thank you page. In this case, maybe we want to increase our online applications by 4% because that's going to be reflective of our overall marketing goals. And so the types of segments I think that would be really helpful here is things like traffic sources. So if people are coming in from organic search or Google or a specific ad that you've put together, we obviously want to know which one of those is driving the most people to apply, right? We also might want to know about geography. If there's a certain place that we've just gone to a fair at and we've got some people applying right, or maybe we put up some billboard advertising along a certain route. And additionally, time of day might be interesting too, especially for segmenting out different types of users and saying that, wow, we really have a lot of people thinking about coming back to school that are filling things out after 10 p.m. Maybe we need to have some people available to answer questions at that time of day. So there's a lot that you can learn just by drilling down into this framework and giving you some places to start with your analysis. There are 4 different types of goals and ways you can set up goals. The first one is the example that I just gave you. A goal is completed when a visitor actually views a defined URL. So a thank you page is a great example there. The next one is time on site. So that's exactly what it sounds like. It's if a visitor is on your website for a certain amount of seconds, we can consider that a goal conversion. Same is true with the pages per visit. If a visitor actually hits X number of pages during their visit, we can also consider that. Those 2 are really engagement goals, and I think they work really well for things like blog sites or news sites, less effective in strategy on like enrollment type sites. And then finally, the last one on our list here is an event. I'm going to explain a little bit more what an event is in a couple of slides, but basically what this is if there's something that you think makes sense, like it's a button click or a video play or something else that's going on in your site that maybe isn't as simple as a URL, don't worry. We can probably put an event on it and track that as a goal. So if I tell you that my site has 2,000 page views today, 70% of my visitors are returning and we have an 80% bounce rate. Are you going to say that that's good or is that bad? Right. You probably don't know for sure, right? It all is about context. So one of the greatest things about goals is they put context to all of these metrics that are out there. Of course, what happened yesterday matters. If I normally have 50 page views a day and now I have 2,000, that's probably a good thing. But not if none of those 2,000 people are actually converting on my goals. And they just came in because I started posting pictures of funny videos of cats or whatever it might be. So being able to temper all of your other data that comes in with the actual good or bad of how effective they are in converting on your goals is tremendous benefit over just looking at, regular metrics that you get. The next thing I want to show you is traffic sources. Everybody in the room is probably in some capacity dealing with marketing and understanding, are we putting dollars towards the right thing, right? So we want to know, are we spending our time and our money and our effort and our heart and soul on building the right content, advertising in the right channels, and really building communities in the right places. That's why traffic sources are so important. So you can find your traffic sources by going into your analytics, and on the left side there you see acquisition. Under acquisition and then all traffic, you're going to see a bunch of different places that you can look at traffic sources. The slide that I have pulled up right here is from the source medium, which you can see gives you example of it's Google and also organic traffic. Or if you have a specific email campaign, LinkedIn referral, etc. So it gives you a pretty good idea of where people are coming from. There are 4 main types of traffic that you want to look at. Direct traffic is basically anybody who came directly to your website by typing in your domain name. This also is the bucket that Google puts everything into that is broken. So sometimes you'll see this number be really high. Usually it is one of the top sources though for you. So these are people who are familiar with your brand, who really know who you are, and are typing you in on a regular basis. The second one here is search engines, and everybody's familiar with search engines. We consider this organic search, not the paid. And that's going to be, by default, Google's tracking 20 plus different search engines. So not just Google, Bing, and Yahoo, but a bunch of them, especially internationally, that we might not even work with very frequently. There's also something called referrals, and that basically means that there is a link on your website or not on your website, a link on another person's website that leads to your website. So if there's a link on BeckyVardaman.com and I'm linking off to convergeconsulting.org, it's going to look like a referral from BeckyVardaman.com if people click on that and visit. And then finally, there's something called campaigns. Campaigns are great because it really allows you to customize the information that you see coming into your analytics, and it lets you make some additional strategy and understanding on how different types of campaigns are working. So example of when you would use a campaign. The ugly, ugly white URL at the top of the screen here with the question mark and the UTM underscore things, that's what the URL looks like. What you do is you take a pretty simple online builder and you take your normal website URL that you were going to place on Facebook or Twitter. It's great for social media. It's great for RSS feeds. It's great for email. And so let's say we were going to send out a link to my homepage through an email. So I'd go in and I would create this URL and I would add that my source is whatever the name of the email is. The medium is going to be email. The campaign is whatever I might call that campaign. Another example is the one I have here with the Facebook. So this is, let's say it's for our a video that we've created for our fall campaign. And so we're going to place the link to this video on Facebook. So the source is going to be Facebook. The medium is going to be social. Our campaign is going to be the fall 2013 campaign. And then we actually have another element here called content where I can differentiate between video 1 and maybe video 2 and 3 that we do in a couple of weeks. This is also something that is used all the time with AdWords and any kind of advertising that you're doing. AdWords actually does it for you automatically. If anybody's using AdWords, you can just check a box and it'll send this information automatically with all the campaign information from your AdWords. So why does it matter so much in higher education? Why do we care so much about traffic sources? Well, we already talked about using a traffic source as a segment on a goal. So obviously we want to know which traffic sources are converting best on all those goals that you set up. So for every traffic or for every audience that you have coming to your website, you've hopefully set up some goals, and then we can understand that maybe social media does really well and helps with a lot of conversions for a specific audience of prospective undergrad students. But maybe email is really more effective for some of those folks that are trying to come back to school or whatever it might be. We also can learn a lot about which ones are doing the best over time and how the trends are moving that way. We can figure out where we want to spend more of our money. All the advertising that you do and any kind of paid email blasts you might be doing, you need to tag so that you can tell if it works. And you really need to understand which traffic sources you should be investing more money and more resources in. Additionally, where you should spend your time. And of course, you can also pull out some unexpected trends that you didn't realize might have been there. One such trend, I actually was working with an alumni association, and they found out that their email traffic was doing really, really well, and they didn't really know what was going on with it. They were like, oh, our continuous subscriptions to, it's a religious organization, so they had like a prayer of the day. And the prayer of the day email kept going out, and it kept getting bigger and bigger and bigger. And so they were looking at this email traffic and saying, people are doing great here, let's dig into it a little further. So we did some segmenting and found out that it was specifically from the Philippines, which was really interesting. That's where they're having huge email growth in the Philippines. And so we did a little bit more digging into it and found out that they weren't doing anything actually targeted to that area, but somewhere along the line, some folks in the Philippines had gotten really engaged with their newsletter and were forwarding it to all of their friends. And so they took that as an opportunity to feature some of their Filipino graduates and some more local type of flair for that content. Finally, there's a couple of things that I'm going to recommend to you that really can help you make the most, I guess, out of your Google Analytics. So it's great to have all of the data coming in. It's amazing if you've got your goals set up. But let's talk about some additional things that you can do to learn even more about activity on your website. The first one is events. So I mentioned events a little bit earlier. Events are something you can use to set goals. So they actually can be that KPI for you. It's basically a little snippet of code that goes around the actual actions that happen on your website. So maybe it's playing a video. It might be clicking through left and right on a slider or clicking through on one of those slider elements. It might be clicking on one of these giant buttons that you've got on your homepage, or maybe it's clicking to an offsite link like social media. If I were to click on a link to your Facebook page right now from your website, if you don't have event tracking on it, there's no way for us to know that somebody clicked and left your website and where they went to. So a lot of that stuff can be plugged in, and you can measure that. This is what the code looks like. And I know nobody likes to see code in these sorts of things, but I want to at least show you so you have some idea. This top line is kind of the basic event tracking code that goes in around the action. If that doesn't sound like fun to you, and you don't think that you want to go and place a bunch of code all over your website, there is something that can make it a little bit easier. It's called Google Tag Manager, and we can do a lot of customizations through this tool. So briefly, Google Tag Manager, it's not necessarily analytics related, but what we use it for is very analytics centric. So Google Tag Manager is intended to be a one-stop shop to place any types of code directly onto your website. So you have a little piece of container code, and instead of placing your regular analytics code, you put this container code on every page of your website after the opening body tag, and then from actual web-based interface, you can go through and decide what types of code you want to go where on your website. It's hugely beneficial for people in marketing who don't want to bother IT every time that we need a snippet of code placed, or a tag, if you will. I like to think of it as Mario, like that green warp. Basically what you're doing is we've got the little container code placed, and you can then kind of get that through the pipe into the green tube, directly access onto the site that you wouldn't be able to get normally. It uses macros, rules, and tags to do this listening, capturing, and collecting. A lot of common ways that you can use Tag Manager is if anyone's doing digital advertising and you're using remarketing code or retargeting or conversion code, you've probably had to place those little snippets before on thank you pages or on specific sections of the site. This can be done really simply and easy through Google Tag Manager. But the thing I'm actually wanting to tell you a little bit about today that's possible is that you can do something called auto event tagging. And this is basically, I can set up some listeners and set up some tags that will basically, anytime somebody does a certain number of things with a certain set of rules, it'll automatically be recorded as an event. So you don't have to go through and place that specific code on every little button click. We can say, hey, Google, pay attention that anytime somebody clicks on a link that's not part of my domain, we're going to record that as an event. Or anytime somebody clicks on an email, let's record that as an event. Or anytime somebody clicks on something within this div tag for the main nav, we're going to record that as an event. So there's lots of ways that you can use events that won't necessarily break your entire timeline. You can get them done dynamically and quickly through something like Tag Manager. And honestly, Google Tag Manager, if you're looking at doing an enterprise analytics iteration, it really is a best practice. So I recommend you look at it either way. Another thing you can do to really customize your analytics is to have some dashboards. If Tag Manager sounded a little complicated, you're going to love dashboards. Dashboards are really simple. You can find them on the left-hand side underneath the dashboard section. And basically you have 12 little widgets that you can customize however you'd like them to be and pull in all kinds of good information. There's an example here to the right. And once you've got that figured out of what those 12 widgets are that you want, it's so shareable. That's what really makes these powerful. So figure out what your 12 most important things are that you want to share with people on a regular basis, and you can easily pop it out as a PDF and email it. You can actually set up email reporting, which is amazing. We actually get an email of a basic standard dashboard every day, emailed to my entire company so that everybody can see what's going on our website. They can go out daily, they can go out weekly, monthly, quarterly. You can pick when, and they can go to anyone. It doesn't have to be somebody who is signed into analytics. It can go to your boss, it can go to your boss's boss, it can go to the people that are actually putting content onto the site. So there's lots of options there. And then additionally, they're shareable, which what that means for you is that if you go out and say, I wish I could find a really wonderful social media dashboard for Google Analytics. There's a bunch of experts out there that have been creating these things and sharing the links out there. So there's all kinds of really cool dashboards you can get started with right away with very minimal work. So where do I recommend you start with dashboards? Believe it or not, goals. It always makes sense to start with goals because you've already determined that those are the most important things on your website, right? That's why you have a website. So having a goal report is an excellent place. I actually usually like to do goals by traffic sources, if you can believe that. Second, any current reporting you're doing. I used to spend a lot of time at a previous job doing dashboard or doing reporting, and basically got rid of a whole day's worth of work every week when I transitioned them all to dashboards that would automatically go out. So anything you're currently reporting on, content-heavy sections of the site make a lot of sense. If you have a blog or a news section, so you can really see which pieces of the site, which content is really resonating with your users. Additionally, if you have content contributors out there, if you have a distributed content approach across your university and lots of people are editing content, it's good to have people have access to a regular dashboard of what they're responsible for so that they can really see what's working and what's not working. If you have a specific campaign set up, and you guys all know what campaigns are now, so maybe you're doing a campaign for like that fall video I mentioned. You could put a dashboard together for just that and see when we posted the video to Facebook, Twitter, and an email, which one of those channels really drove the best conversion off of it. You can also do specific traffic sources. I already mentioned a social media dashboard. If you're doing any kind of PPC advertising, that's a great way to look at that all in scale together. Or referrals and SEO is a great traffic source to look at as well. And at Converge, we're really all about inbound marketing. So of course we always look at the three: attract, convert, and delight, the three phases of inbound marketing. So attract, how are people getting to your website? Convert, how are they doing the things that you want them to do? How are they doing with your goals? And then delight, really looking at engagement. Where are people engaged in your website? And hopefully, where are you making them very delighted? Now, I've gone through kind of the main three pieces that I wanted to talk to you guys about. And I can't not talk about universal analytics. I've got to talk about this for at least a second just because it's really important right now. In fact, I just did a full webinar available on our website if you want to learn a little bit more about this. But Universal Analytics is the latest and greatest iteration of Google Analytics. Years ago, not that many years ago, but about 2005, Analytics was purchased. It was a company called Urchin back then, and Google bought them. And they turned them into Analytics. And it went through a traditional phase. Then it moved to something called asynchronous. Many of you probably remember when you had to move it from the footer, the code, up into the header of your page, because asynchronous means that it will load at the same time and not slow down your page. And most people that I talk to right now and start working with are actually still in that asynchronous version. But about a year and a half ago, Universal Analytics came out. And it is now out of beta, and it's the main operating system for analytics. In fact, if you create a new property, you don't have a choice. It just becomes Universal Analytics now. And it's really important that you understand kind of what's new with it and what it means as far as transitioning to this new tool. So first off, there's a lot of really cool stuff. A lot of the problems of web analytics for the past 10 years have been around this not understanding how to count the same person from different devices. So if I was on my work computer and then I was on my iPhone and then I was on my home computer and then I was on my iPad and I was on your website all of those different times, right now I'd look like four different people, four unique people. So one of the really cool things that Universal does is it uses something called a measurement protocol and enables it to do cross-device tracking through basically a user ID tool to understand that I'm the same person in all those different places. I've actually been doing some work with an alumni association where we're uploading additional information on top of that user ID so we can understand not only what those specific people are doing, but if they are, which school they graduated from, or whether they're in the top donating groups or not. So there's a lot of really cool stuff you can learn there. Server-side sessionization is basically just a tongue twister way of saying that you have access to change a lot of things and customize some things within the actual tool that you used to have to hard code. So it's better again for marketers. Custom dimensions and custom metrics is actually what I was just referring to, and being able to upload additional information, and that dimension widening in user ID. So there's a lot of really cool things you can do with that. And then finally, there's offline conversion import and cost data import. So basically what this means is if I have somebody who has signed up for a visit when they're talking to me on the phone, I can actually push a goal conversion to analytics. So all of my goal conversions are in one place. And then additionally, if we have ROI information and cost information from a different campaign that's not specifically related to online, we can actually import that into one place too. So Google Analytics is really trying to become a much more comprehensive tool, and it's exciting. Like there's very, very cool things that are coming along the way. So a couple of takeaways for you. I know that I've basically crammed into 3 slides something that I just did an entire hour-long webinar on. So I know it's a lot of information, but a couple of takeaways for you. First off, it's time. This might be the biggest, I've kind of buried the lead here. This might be the biggest bullet point, is Google hasn't promised to process the information of older systems. They basically said when they launched the new system, you've got about 2 years, and then we're not going to necessarily guarantee that we're going to continue to process the data from asynchronous. So you really do need to think about getting on board and thinking about making the change. It's actually really exciting. So as much as that sounds a little doomsday-ish, it's a very exciting thing with very cool tools. And a lot of the new tools, like all the demographic information that we're seeing, some of the benchmarking information that we've seen in the last year, that's only coming out on Universal. So you're going to want to move to Universal regardless of the fact that they aren't promising to do any of those things. And really, you should think about it as an opportunity. The actual process of switching to Universal Analytics is 2 steps. It's going out and checking a box in the back end of Google, and then going out to your website and updating the code. So for most of us, that really probably shouldn't take that long. It shouldn't be a big process. It shouldn't be a big problem. In fact, like on my personal website or even on Converge's website, that it's small and we have just 1 or 2 templates, it took me about 20 minutes. But what I love to see is colleges and universities taking this as an opportunity and saying that we really want to not only transition to Universal Analytics, but we want to make sure that we're getting the most out of it, and really use it as a driver to build a culture of data-driven decision-making on campus. So that means that people are, and I've been working with a ton of schools to do this in the past year or so, going out and inventorying their entire website, making sure that we have the code on all of the right pages so we have good referral information and accurate data. Going through and making sure all of the views and the properties are set up in a way that you can actually use them strategically, and setting up strategic goals based on those audiences so that you really have accurate data that you can make good decisions on. And of course, putting events and dashboards in there as well. So Universal Analytics is a great opportunity for you to really take this on as a project and make sure your analytics are up to snuff. So of course, should we switch? Yes. It's not really if, but when at this point. And now is a great time to start thinking about what that plan should be.